Good morning and welcome to the Missing Link podcast brought to you by ChiroEdge, where each week we break down the most relevant chiropractic science and philosophy to empower you to change your community. We are your hosts, Dr. Anthony Pellegrino and Dr. Kendall Price, and today is episode 1. Today we're going to be discussing for philosophy what the meaning of the word chiropractic is. We're going to be discussing the research behind adjustment-only chiropractic, as well as the research behind chiropractic and diabetes. Taking the helm today is going to be Dr. Kendall. So Dr. Kendall, go ahead. Let's get started. What are we talking about today?
Good afternoon, everybody. What we really want to focus on today, kicking off, we wanted to start with just what chiropractic is, and what it means. So, when you look up the word chiropractic, the World Health Organization, they say it's a healthcare profession concerned with the diagnosis, treatment, prevention of disorders of the neuromuscular system and the effects of disorders of general health. That's the broad definition, but the reality is that we know as chiropractors that what chiropractic is all about is making sure that the brain is communicating with the body, making sure that your brain is able to get the messages down the spinal cord, out the nerves, to every organ, cell, tissue in the body. When we look through, there's all sorts of different techniques. There's all sorts of different ways to adjust. We're not going to get into that because honestly, that's not the importance of it. But chiropractic in and of itself, it means by hand only. And I know that we got a number of people that are going to be on these podcasts or listening that use instruments, right, Anthony? Regardless of what you use to adjust, we all know that the ultimate goal is to remove the nerve interference that's going on in the body to allow the body to function at its maximum. And that's the premise that we go about with every study and everything that we look at. And that's the central premise. And that's what we're gonna start and end every single article and thing that we write on is just what chiropractic is. So from that, really what we're going to jump into, I want to jump into 2 studies that I reviewed this week that look at 2 different things. We talk about chiropractic, we talk about all the different things that chiropractors do. And, if you go to 12 different chiropractors, likely you're going to get 12 different things. Right? Chiropractors practice in multiple different ways. But what I really want to focus on is, what's most cost effective, not only for the patient, but also what is getting the best results. So the study is actually
kind of important, right?
Yeah, right. The reality is everybody makes their decisions based off of what the value that we create in the office for what we do. And number 2, they make the decision off of cost, right? Cost and time. Those are the things that people are always asking about, right? And honestly, the better answer you can give them for your type of services in your office, the more likely you are to be able to change their life and change their health. So the study is out of the Journal of British Medicine Journal, excuse me. And what they looked at is the cost effectiveness of 2 different groups. So group number 1 was a group that was just adjusted. And group number 2 was a group that was adjusted and did manual therapies, did exercise programs, exercise regimens. And they looked at it and said, okay, number 1, what are the results of each group? Who gets the better results? So when they looked at this, really what the study shows is that both groups were pretty well equal. The group that actually did adjustments with therapy, actually, they did get a little bit better results as far as the study was concerned at their 3 and 12-month follow-ups. However, when they looked at both groups in comparison, they looked at what was going on with the groups that just did adjustment only type services in their office versus the other group. And what they found was that the cost for the group that was doing adjustments and therapies and exercises and all sorts of things in their offices, the cost was so much more that it actually made this the best answer for people's care overall. And I don't know about you, but in my office, people want in and out. We live in the such a fast-paced society that, we're constantly having people. I mean, I think some people would pay more money to be able to get in quicker, and get out quicker, right?
That's the truth, right?
So so when we look at the study and we see that, I mean, it just kind of helps to justify the fact that, some of these adjustment only offices, or these offices that have, some small therapies. I know in our office, we do a couple of things, for warm up exercises and, post exercises, but, not a ton of stuff. We definitely keep things pretty skinny here, but with what we're doing, but it's things that we found to be helpful. So needless to say, what this study is showing is that, those chiropractors out there who are doing adjustment only type practices, cost effective wise for your patient, as well as time wise, it's actually the answer. It's actually a better result for your patients. So
that's awesome. And this is out of the British Medical Journal, you said, right?
Yeah. British Medicine Journal. Yep. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, that's definitely something that we talk about all the time. For those of you guys who don't know, Dr. Kendall practices in the great state of Illinois, in the great area of Chicago, just outside of Chicago. And my practice is in the wonderful Jersey Shore. Yes, to answer your questions, we are about 15 minutes from where the show, maybe a little more, maybe closer to 20 minutes from where the show actually took place. But the reason I bring that up is we both are in very fast-paced environments. So when we look at things, I know for me, I mean, I use torque release technique in practice. So a typical adjustment for me is 2 to 3 minutes, moving slowly. And, people love that. They like that. And It's one thing to do that and say, hey, I'm going to do that because it's faster, because people like that, because that's part of my, unique value proposition. The fact that I can get you in and out 10 to 15 minutes from the second you walk in to the second you leave. But there's another to say, hey, research shows that this is actually better. It's better for you. It's better for your wallet. It's just better. So why aren't we going to do this? Right. And it definitely helps to justify that. We're definitely blessed to be friends with and have stepped foot in some of the most successful volume practices in the world. And something that we notice all the time is people love that in and out. They love coming in, getting adjusted and saying, hey, if I'm going to be doing better in my life, I don't want to be spending my whole life in the office, right? I want to go enjoy the community. For me, it's the beach. For you, it's deep dish pizza, whatever it is, right? I want to go out there and enjoy the community, and not be stuck in the office getting those results, right? Actually get to enjoy that.
Yeah. And that's what it all comes down to is, number one, we want to do, obviously we want to provide the best care possible, but we also want to make sure that we're respecting people's time and honestly just staying in our lane and doing what we do.
Staying in the lane.
Staying in our lane. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the next study. The next study is kind of a mix of two studies. Sorry guys, I don't know if you can hear my kids screaming in the background or not, but
they love chiropractic.
They do. They just don't love naps. So the study that I looked at first and was reading about was the case of a 67-year-old woman who went into a chiropractic office in Florida. It's actually Dr. Dan Yacker. It's pretty well known in the profession, but the woman went in with type 2 diabetes. So for those that are unfamiliar, that's an insulin resistance type of diabetes. It's an acquired disorder, largely based on lifestyle choices and health arising. Now, what happened in this specific case was that after 4 visits, she was able to come off all of her medications for her diabetes. Sorry about that. So what the study is showing is that, she's coming off all of her medications, 4 visits. And I just looked at that.
4 visits.
4 visits. So it's kind of crazy when you actually go in and read the study. Overall, she was on 92 different medications. And throughout the course of care, she went down to 12 or something, like 12 or 21. I can't remember. It's just,
which is still a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Still a lot, but maybe there was some junk in there that didn't need to be.
Yeah, that's generally if you have 92 pills that you're taking a day. I think you're being overprescribed some stuff, but
you're not really doing too many processes on your own.
Yes. So what's really cool is that, so I wanted to look and say, hey, what is the other part of healthcare saying about, and how is this possible? How can someone come off of those sort of medications? How can someone see that much change in their body in that amount of time? So what I actually found when I started looking at how, we look at the main, the premise that if the brain is not communicating with the body, there's gonna be health concerns. I'm not going to get into the research behind autonomic dysfunction with chiropractic, but we, as chiropractors, we all know that the autonomic nervous system is greatly impacted by subluxation and nerve interference. And when I started looking at this, I looked at it from that perspective. So we were looking at autonomic dysfunction and diabetes, and what I found is it's pretty unbelievable, actually. So it is actually a study out of Northwestern Medicine here in the Chicagoland area.
And we were talking about this earlier. So just to clarify, this is Northwestern Medicine. This is not a chiropractic college. This is a medical school.
Correct. This is the Department of Preventative Medicine at the Feinberg School of Medicine at Northwestern University. So it's not the chiropractic school. And what they did is they looked at 3,300. So it's actually 3,295 people between the ages of 18 and 30. And they did it's a 15-year-long study. So at 7, 10, and 15 years, they looked at how these people progressed and whether they developed diabetes or not. But what they looked at was people's physical fitness, and then they looked at their autonomic dysfunction or autonomic nervous system function. The way that they did it was they looked at their heart rate recovery. So heart rate recovery is essentially if we take our heart rate and then we exercise for a time period, how long does it take us to get back to that normal resting heart rate? The faster you do that, the more autonomically healthy you're going to be. It's called a vagal reactivation. And we know that through an adjustment, the vagus nerve is going to be stimulated, or we're going to, regulate how it's functioning and improve function of the body. And what this study showed is that without a doubt, autonomic dysfunction in combination with poor physical health, is maybe a mechanism associated with early glucose dysmetabolism and development of diabetes. Very simply, what they're saying is that if your autonomic nervous system is not functioning the way that it needs to, there's a much greater increase of the risk of diabetes in your life. Which from a chiropractic's perspective, when you look at that and know the effect that we have on the autonomic nervous system, it's huge. I mean, it's huge for those people who are, type 2 diabetics in your office, that they be getting adjusted regularly, because it's going to help them with their blood sugar. It's going to help them with their insulin resistance. So
it is hard to not get excited about that.
I know. And this is the thing, how many times do you hear in our profession or from people that, there's no research behind chiropractic? And it's just garbage. It really is. It's just absolute garbage, because we've got the research is there. We know what we do. It's just the problem that people don't look. They don't get outside of this little box that we put ourselves into in chiropractic. And you got to look outside of it and say, okay, how do we affect the body with our adjustments? And when you realize that, and then you say, okay, well, if we affect the body in this, what does that do to the body in other regards? And when we look outside the box, we see this it's an explosion. And that's what we want to continue to keep looking at and trying to push forward. And that's the whole reason for ChiroEdge, right? Was to educate our patients, but also to get the information to doctors so that they can continue to, feel very certain in what they're doing and why they do what they do. So, that's what I got for you guys today.
That's awesome. And we've definitely in the past reviewed a lot of, just looking at heart rate, was it reactivity, right? Heart rate reactivity.
Yeah. Yep.
Heart rate or recovery, whatever it was.
Heart rate reactivation.
Heart rate reactivation, as well as, heart rate variability, which is something that we've spoken about a lot in the past. A lot of, chiropractic offices are measuring HRV now and seeing those changes. So we know, right, that chiropractic affects the autonomic nervous system. we understand that. We know that.
Right.
We've measured that. We've seen that. Now it's just, you know, a bridge. Do we have tons of studies in chiropractic that say, you know, we see this DBRCT that says, you know, diabetes changed and we measured HRV, blah, 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 blah. Like, no, we don't have that. We have these cases, but what we do have is studies that do show that chiropractic influences HRV beyond any measure. It does. It influences it. It's not arguable. And then we have all these studies that show improvements in HRV related to improvements in diabetes, less risk of cancer, less high blood pressure, you know, XYZ, all these different issues. We see these changes. It's not hard to bridge the gap, and it's something that we get really, really, really excited about here. So those are the articles that, if you guys are ChiroEdge members, we're going to be distributing to you guys in newsletter and social media forms on Sunday at 11:45. For those of you guys who are checking in who aren't familiar with us, you can go back and see all of our previous research breakdowns on chiroedgemedia.com/live. You can also go on there and sign up to be notified from when we go live in the future. You can go to there to also request a 2-week free trial of the ChiroEdge service, where you receive 2 weeks worth of in-office newsletters that break down research just like this, as well as congruent social media posts. You can get that with your office branding as well through the ChiroEdge service. And also something come through the pipeline. Go check out those websites as well, because we are going to be taking the audio of this and putting this into podcast form as well. For me personally, you know, I love watching my Facebook Lives, but it's much easier for me to go and just listen to podcasts in the car. So if you guys want to receive that relevant, there's relevant research, chiropractic philosophy, and science, go on the website, chiroedgemedia.com/live, and all of the details will be there about how to get that not only on your screen, but in your car as well. I'm Dr. Anthony Pellegrino, and this was and Dr. Kendall Price, and this was the Missing Link podcast. Catch you all next week.